Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is about 22 hours since Inter Miami's 2-0 loss to the Vancouver Whitecaps in Game 1 of a two-legged semifinal in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. There was no instant reaction from us yesterday, and I want to apologize for that. I have been under the weather, continue to be under the weather, but I would like to do this episode, talk about this game so that we can put it in the rearview mirror, just get it over with. With that said, I don't know how this episode is going to go, but hopefully we can break it down to the best of our ability in this situation. And to help me do that, I brought on once again Marc from the podcast. So, Marc, once again, thank you for being on the show. And how are you feeling tonight, my
man? Power, man. I got to be honest with you. A little under the weather as well. So I guess this Inter Miami loss kind of did it for us, to be honest. We'll break it down now. But I guess my head's already focused on next Wednesday.
I want to give you a chance to say anything about Robert Taylor or Julian Gressel if you want to. Both players were traded on Wednesday, which was the deadline. I do think Soren and I are going to do something a little bit more ceremonial and bigger picture when there's an opportunity to do that. I think we've been so caught and focused on this semifinal, two-legged semifinal, that the transfer window has kind of gone under the radar as it concluded. So Soren and I will do something bigger, but since you probably won't be a part of that, any thoughts on Robert Taylor or Julian Gressel that you feel they deserve?
Just the utmost respect for both of them. Very professional in their own aspects. Towards the end of their tenures, didn't really get a lot of playing time, but when they played in the right positions, they provided for Inter Miami, especially Robert Taylor in that Leagues Cup run. He really lit up that tournament with Messi's arrival. Picked up the slack when Messi, Suárez, those guys weren't playing. Had some beautiful goals for us prior to the Messi years. Gressel was a true professional in his aspect, provided an offensive scheme or dynamic that we didn't really see, and that's a wide player providing such great service into the box from wide spaces. So I wish them both the best of luck in their next endeavors. And, Robert Taylor will probably always be one of my favorite Inter Miami players.
Yeah, I apologize for not saying this already, but if you missed it, on Wednesday night at the deadline for the winter transfer window, Robert Taylor was traded to Austin FC for about $750,000 in allocation money. Julian Gressel was traded to Minnesota United. That deal has not been announced, so we're not exactly sure what Inter Miami got in return. But by all accounts, it went through. Inter Miami has traded both Robert Taylor and Julian Gressel. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why the offense hasn't functioned particularly well over the past month. And we might come back to those two players. But let's get into this game because it was, I think, very disappointing from Inter Miami's perspective. They have not been scoring a ton of goals lately. And so I don't think it was unpredictable that they were going to go on the road against a very good MLS team and not be able to score goals or create a ton of chances. But considering the hole they put themselves in last round against LAFC in the road trip, you would have loved to see this team come out and really try and dominate the game. And it felt like that's how they came out for the first 20, 25 minutes. And then as soon as Vancouver scored the goal, it felt like they got real nervous. The possession numbers were always high, but they were sort of timid to get into the box and try and be dangerous. How did you feel about this, the state of this team, the mindset of this team going into the game, and what were your expectations as this is the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal? It was never going to be easy, but also it's a huge deal, and it didn't feel like Inter Miami's performance necessarily lived up to it. But how did you feel going into the game?
Going into the game, I thought, they would have learned from the LAFC first leg, knowing that you got to take the game to the opponent, especially at home, and especially to a team in Vancouver who's going to be ready for the game. Their fans are going to be ready, so the atmosphere is going to be electric. You're labeled as the best team in the MLS, the deepest team. It's time to show it in a semifinal of a big tournament that you're trying to win. And as you said, we came out with a certain firepower in that first 20, 25 minutes, but then it just died off after that goal. and we looked lethargic. We looked slow. We looked, as you said, timid. A lot of back passing, not trying to go forward with a purpose. The possession numbers were there, but if you're not going to do anything with it, what's the point? You need to, have a certain mindset to attack from the minute that whistle blows in the first minute to the 90th minute. You cannot let up in a tournament like this, and you cannot be so passive, to say the least, in these types of games where a team like Vancouver can score with a blink of an eye. They've done in the MLS. They're the best team in the West, and they took it to us.
So disappointing, and I apologize for all my little coughs or sneezes over the course of this episode. As I said, I am a little bit under the weather. It felt like the last few performances against Chicago, against Columbus, they weren't, even the second leg against Toronto, they weren't sort of all-star performances. But if they were building towards us firing on all cylinders for this game, for this round, it would have been forgotten very easily. Those games felt like they should have been prepped for this game. And so when you're talking about sitting in a low block for the second half against Columbus, when you're talking about trying a few things here or there, Kramaski up top, or rather as a wide midfielder instead of a Vafabiko or instead of Telasco Segovia, it's like you're preparing for this game. And those, I think, disappointing performances would have been completely forgiven if you had a good showing in this first leg. They don't have a good showing. They ultimately lose 2-0, and they don't ever look like they're going to be a winning team in this game. They didn't really create an ultra dangerous shot or opportunity at any point in this game. They did not figure out that back line. They did not put Takaoka under any real pressure, the Vancouver goalkeeper. So what is the deal there? And let me stop and say, did you feel that from the first minute, or did it feel like the team settled into that after a while?
I feel like it was almost a summary of the last two games, and I it was going to be hard for us to come out and show anything, given with the little rotation we've had, and I felt like we were going in dead-legged and heavy-legged and fatigued. And, we kind of settled into some attacking prowess at times, but it was nothing convincing, to be honest. And I think you said it best. If the two games before this one were any indication of trying anything new, and you come out this game and you wipe the slate clean and you come out and show it and everything would be forgotten, great. But it's just a culmination of the last three games, honestly. No attacking prowess. There's barely not scoring goals. Compared to the first 4 games of the season. And it's just been slow and lethargic. I think those are the two words that, we're going to be really harping on, is this team looks slow. There's not a lot of pace getting forward, not a lot of creativity, not knowing what to do with the ball at times, and just recycled possession into nothing. And it turns into nothing. And at times it turns into a turnover for the other team. I think we've been stuck in the mud for a good 4 games.
Yeah, that's, I think, a good way to put it. There has been a very heavy defensive mindset from this team. It has felt like over the last couple of games. Certainly Chicago was the protagonist in that Inter Miami Chicago game. Columbus in that second half, was all Columbus. Inter Miami was just parking the bus as hard as they could. And so I was a little worried that was the trend we were going. It didn't feel like Inter Miami came out that way. It did feel like they wanted to hold possession. It did feel like they thought, let's go back to what we were 6 weeks ago, where we can poke and prod until we find good opportunities. And if we do that effectively, Messi will find an opening. Allende will get a ball inside the box and have a shot on goal. Suárez will do what Suárez does. But it did feel to me like everything changed in the 24th minute. And let's start there, because that's when Vancouver scores the opening goal. Really well played, just entire pattern of play. It ultimately accumulates in Pedro Vite lifting the ball over Maxi Balcone to Brian White, who gets a bit of separation on the backside and heads it past Oscar Scotty to open the scoring. I think, especially on the rewatch, Inter Miami felt like they were playing the way they wanted to play. And then as soon as that happened, it felt significantly more timid. The amount of times that they entered the final third and then actually progressed the ball inside the box, I thought dropped tremendously. if you go back and watch the first 10, 15, 18 minutes of this game, Inter Miami was getting the ball into the opposition box, and there'd be a defender in the way, or Suárez would get bodied off because he wasn't athletic enough to get there. Messi would have 3 guys in front of him, but they were getting the ball into sort of the type of areas that you can see them creating an opportunity out of. It felt to me like that virtually stopped after the goal. And so it made me nervous because it felt like the players got nervous. And I know the announcers on the broadcast were talking about how Messi always tells them, don't worry, don't panic. But it felt like there was a little panic there.
I saw it too. And it was a lot of, we break the midfield line and then there's no options and we're recycling possession back. And it's a lot of Redondo passing back with Allen or Falcon, and then Falcon passing back to Ustadi, and then us going another go at it and really not trying to break that defensive line and us trying not to get into the box. Not a lot of vertical runs from Allende after that point. It was a tough slate in the last 20 minutes of the first half, and credit to Vancouver for a beautifully, organized goal. I felt when I watched it, Redondo could have done a better job of stepping to Pedro Vite before, he passed that ball, but I think it was just very quickly timed by them. It was kind of just killed our little momentum or little firepower we came out with.
Yeah, that goal I think was, to me, a great team scoring a really nice team goal. Like, yes, there is a way to defend that better where you can stop the pass in, but it was the type of goal every good team is going to give up at some point. So it's hard for me to blame the defense for that goal. We can get to the second goal in a minute, but ultimately it still felt like the story of this game was the offense being unable to put any sort of real fingerprint on this game. They weren't able to create real chances, and that's with all of your guys, right? Yeah. Everyone that Javier Mascherano wanted was there. You're not missing Jordi Alba. You're not missing Tadeo Allende. You're not missing Messi or Suárez or whoever. You had your guys. These are the handpicked guys that Javier Mascherano went into the offseason thinking, these are going to be the 11 that takes me through to the next round. And in fact, aside from Noah Allen, this is probably the exact 11 that Javier Mascherano had in mind back on January 1st when they were, closing deals for Allende and Segovia and trying to get Maxi Falcone in. Like, this is everything he could have wanted.
Vision. Yeah, this was
his vision. And they didn't create real offense. And they haven't been creating real offense for quite some time. I think that there's a lot of speculation why that might be. So I want to give it to you first. Why can't this team create chances?
I mean, I think there's just not enough creativity in that midfield alongside Messi. I know Segovia's been trying to find his feet in that midfield again, but it hasn't been great as of late. He needs to play tighter to Messi, and I think Allende serves better. He's good vertically on the wings. I think as a second striker, either in front of Suárez or just off to the left or right, will do wonders for this team. Running off the back of defenders, giving Messi a pass option closer than anything out wide. Having Suárez check in and having him just shoot and creating anything in the middle. I think we just have it's a mixture of not knowing where to put these players and a mixture of just dead legs, I think.
It certainly feels to me like the biggest culprit is dead legs. Listen, this is the same front four that scored 4 goals. I guess Messi didn't play in that game, but this is a similar front four that scored 4 goals against Houston, that was scoring over 2 goals a game for the first 8 games of the season. And now it's just died. And to me, that shows that either there's a fundamental issue with this offense that the defenses that we've been playing against have figured out, which I don't think is the case, honestly. Or they've been running to the ground and they've hit a run of poor form collectively all at the same time. And I think that's the case. And certainly Segovia has not been in great form. Certainly Suárez hasn't been in great form. And now we're tracking towards Allende not having had an impressive performance since he came back from the calf injury. And I think the scariest of all, we're now looking at Messi having his potentially worst performance of the season. The trend line for all of these players, I think, is really bad, really scary. And there's nothing for me to grab onto to say it's going to get better anytime soon. And yet here we are getting ready to play the second leg of a CONCACAF Champions Cup final. Let's get to the second goal, because let's just get through this game, and then we can talk about the bigger picture stuff. It was Ngando with a nice find to Jalen early, who makes a really nice cross-cut run against that back line. Maxi Falcone sees it, and he goes to defend it. Jalen Early had come on like 2 minutes before. He's an athletic player with fresh legs against Maxi Falcone. It's the 85th minute. And he misses it by 3 inches, has to recover. Jalen Early takes a touch to the baseline, puts a cross in. Cello has to come cover Brian White. And so there's no one at the far post for Sebastian Berhalter, who is coming forward unchecked through the midfield and puts the ball in the back of the net. Let's break down that play. How did you feel about what went wrong there? Because to me, it was hard to blame any one player, I thought.
Yeah, it was off a long ball that was intercepted, headed towards Alba. Yannick Bright is already on a yellow, and Savi is dribbling down on the right sideline. Very hard for him to put in a tackle there, given he's on a yellow, and I'm assuming he's going to be starting on Wednesday. But I don't know. He was already on a yellow, so he's not going to go in recklessly. Then it's played into the midfielder. Jaden makes that diagonal run across Falcone's face. Falcone has to react. He's just the slightest step too slow to it. He's able to get the pass off, and because everyone is sucked into the right side, that back post is open, and Brian White, didn't get a touch on it. Cello didn't get a touch on it. I don't know how. Busquets tried to defend it, sliding in front. Ustadi came off his line a bit to try to put him off, but he made a good save. And that goes to them putting on fresh legs and beating ours.
Yeah, I think that was a big talking point yesterday, and I didn't pay too much attention to it during the game or immediately after, because Javier Mascherano is trying to create offense. The only sub that really should have come on was Fafa Picault, but when you're talking about defending in transition, that's not something Fafa Picault would have made a huge difference in. But it was clear to me in that moment specifically, and that was it was a game-defining and potentially series-defining moment where they get that second home goal. They had fresh legs on, and Inter Miami didn't. And that was the difference by 6 inches. It's just the difference between coming on for your 4th minute in the game versus your 84th minute in the game. And you get to that extra ball, you have a little bit extra physicality, and you can make that final play. Now, credit to Sebastian Berhalter for hustling, getting back. I believe it's Tadeo Allende on the pitch who should have been the guy to track back. But again, we're talking about the 85th minute for a player that's trying to get forward and create offense. You can understand why he doesn't make that long run back enough to defend Berhalter on that. It's just tough because Cello Wigan has to come guard the attacker, and Noah Allen and Yannick Bright have already been pulled out of position because of what happened earlier in the play. So you really don't have anyone to defend that back post runner. It was a nice play created by hustle, effort, and fresh legs, and so you give it credit to them. I will say I thought Ustari did not handle that moment well. I think a different goalkeeper would have put a better challenge on that. I think if you watch it, he comes out slowly and he doesn't get particularly big in trying to block that. It's not really where I want to go with this, so I will just leave it at that. But to me, it's like these are 2 goals that Vancouver scored that are just goals that good teams score. Mm-hmm. And so it is hard for me to pinpoint and say the left side of our defense was awful, or our defensive transitions were awful, or our goalkeeper didn't know what he was doing. Like, there was no systemic problem with how they scored their 2 goals. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything to take away from Inter Miami defensively that you have to do better. It was just a good team at home scoring good, well-placed team goals with good chemistry and hustle and effort. The real story of this game to me is on the other side of the pitch. We've been talking about it for weeks now. They haven't been able to create offense, and for a team with Messi and Suárez, that should not be a problem. Suárez's goal-scoring streak, or lack of goal-scoring streak, I believe is at 10 games now since that penalty against Cavalier in Jamaica, 12 games since the run of play. So it's been a long time. And then Messi now, no goal or assist for the last 3 games, which is also concerning. Right, we got shut out against Chicago. He's not involved in the 1 goal we do score against Columbus. Didn't really create anything last night. tough conditions for him. I understand it, and every player is allowed a standard game, but for the offense to be collectively this disconnected, it is very concerning. Lots of theories out there, and I know this is how we started this conversation, so I'll bring it back to you. The wide players, a lot of people want to focus on them. Javier Mascherano tried something yesterday, which I actually liked. He put Telasco Segovia on the right. He put Tadeo Allende on the left. That is not something we've seen at all this season. And I did want to make a special point about this because I like this idea. I have been calling for this for months now. Really, since I think game one of the MLS, I've wanted to see this because I do think Telasco Segovia profiles better on the right. I think Tadeo Allende can fill in on the left in a more effective role. I think it works better for both of them. But last night was the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal on the road, and that is not the time to try something you've never tried before. And what I saw from both Allende and Segovia is two players trying to figure out how to fit into this position and not being able to do it effectively. Specifically with Segovia, I thought he was fine on the ball, but it just wasn't clear to him how he was supposed to have a positive impact. For Allende, I thought it was the same way, but on top of that, I thought he kind of had a poor game. So for both of them, you didn't see tremendous success from the move. They switched in the second half, and I thought they got worse when they switched. And so I did hear saw some people on Twitter talking about those two wide players and the switch. I actually like the idea, and I think long-term that's probably a better way to go. And so I do want to give – I wanted Mascherano to get there, but I just hate the fact that he waited until the biggest moment of the season to try it, and the guys clearly weren't ready. This should have happened, as we were mentioning a couple minutes ago, against Chicago. Against Chicago, try this out. Against Columbus, try this out. Because you want to test things so you're ready for this game, not have those games be the disappointments that force you to test something new in this game. How'd you feel about it?
Like you said, in reality, those two games prior to this one should have been trial runs for anything offensively that we were going to change. And it wasn't. And when you go into this game and trying to change something, I appreciate the attitude towards it. I do agree with you with Allende playing off of Jordi Alba and being able to receive long balls in that way, given that our right-sided outside back is not going to make those runs as often as Alba is or provide that service to Alba is. So having Telasco there to check in where Messi can't and have Messi more centrally and play off each other like that, I think it will do good for the team, but it was just the wrong time to do it. Because like you said, it looked like they were walking on eggshells, not knowing where to stand, where to go after the ball left their feet.
Yeah. And I think the irony that they spent the day before trying to trade away two MLS quality wingers that have proven they can create offense for you, and Robert Taylor and Julian Gressel, probably isn't lost on the situation, especially considering the history those two have with Vancouver. Both Julian Gressel played a year at Vancouver, and we saw just last year Robert Taylor go to Vancouver and have an excellent game. So it is, I think, ironic that those two players left the day before, and potentially fundamental to how this team is sort of operating and thinking right now, where they feel like the guys they got are good enough. And to an extent, I agree with them. But when it's not working, you got to have answers, and the answers need to be tried out before the biggest game of the season so that you are ready for the biggest game of the season. I think that was my biggest takeaway. Fafa Biko, another guy who played there last season, very comfortable on that pitch, not there, not available. He was available, but he didn't play. A strange substitute. You surprised not to see Fafa?
Extremely surprised not to see Fafa in a game where I thought Allende was non-existent, and we needed some sort of attack, something vertical, a player who can take on other players with the ball at his feet on the left-hand side or right-hand side, and a game that we were trying to get a goal. I was shocked that he didn't see the pitch.
Yeah. And then obviously I think the other thing is Luis Suárez. He's not good. He's not been good. He doesn't provide enough when he's not scoring goals, or just beyond scoring goals, helping to create offense. 5 games ago, we were talking about how, okay, he's not scoring, but at least he's setting up the assist. At least he's still doing something to help create offense. Even last game, right? It was the first in a couple games, but he had that ball forward to Cello Weekend that turned into the goal for Kramaski. But last night was really bad. And I think when you are comparing that to Brian White, who's good at hold up, who is multifaceted, is making runs in behind, can be a vertical threat in terms of putting crosses into the box and actually giving him a realistic chance to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
That is just providing so much. And even in the second goal, he doesn't score. He doesn't even touch the ball, but his diagonal run forces Cello to abandon that back post. Cello makes the right play by doing that, but it leaves a wide open area for Sebastian Berhalter to run in. And so when you see what Suárez has been now, it is really tough. And I feel weird having this conversation because I've defended him so much, and I still think he's going to have a good season at the end of the year. But it is tough to watch, and it's tough to just say we have to suffer through it until it fixes itself, even though that seems to be the game plan with both Suárez and Mascherano.
No, I agree.
Can I ask you a question? Hold on, before we get into it, are you going to give an award to Suárez?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's extremely tough to watch, man. It hurts to see, the confidence not there, the ability not to do anything with the ball not there. For a player who was in the MVP race last year, in the Golden Boot race last year, and there's been none of that this year. I think a good 2-game, well, it's not going to happen again Wednesday, but a good 2-game rest at some point in the season needs to happen to get his mind right, to get his body right, just to get that confidence, just take a breath and just, relax for a second. I think he's trying to go a million miles an hour when his body can't, and he's trying to see all these different passing options and shooting options, but he just can't fire off, or the pass is misplaced. And I think he just needs to slow down a little more, if that's even possible for him, and just take a breath and take a step back and really analyze his game on the pitch and just go up to Mascherano. Mascherano's never going to bench him as long as he wants to play. Suárez is never going to say it either, but he needs a break.
I was having this conversation with someone else from the Inter Miami community today, and we were talking about whether it was whose responsibility is this? Because Mascherano was teammates with them, he's friends with them, and they want to play, and he wants to let them play. And I think he even had a quote a couple weeks ago saying, if they tell me they're good to go, they're going to play. And I do think at the end of the day, it is Messi and Suárez's decision whether they play or not. But at the same time, even with that caveat, it is important for a coach, and an experienced coach would be having these conversations with them about the importance of rest, the importance of fresh legs, the importance of just getting a new perspective on the game, and the importance of the long haul of the season constantly if they feel like this player is not seeing the bigger picture in terms of rest. I believe, I want to look this up, but I believe Suárez has played more minutes than anyone else in the MLS this season in all competitions. I want to double check, so I guess, asterisk that statement, but it's ridiculous how many minutes he's playing, and the fact that he hasn't been able to be a productive offensive force in quite some time is incredibly disappointing. And I think we're looking for Messi to have a magic moment to make things happen and create the offense that we've seen him do so many times. But you're going to make that so much easier if Suárez can actually be a real threat and force the defense to account for him, which they're not doing right now. And B, those two play off each other so well. And so to ask Messi to just make magic happen, it actually doesn't happen sometimes it does happen in a vacuum because he's Lionel freaking Messi, right? But the majority of the time, especially last year, and I think one of the reasons we saw that offensive explosion is because Suárez and Messi they played off each other so well. And to take Suárez as his confidence is shot. It's weird. I've never seen him like that. I never thought I would see him like that because he is this all-time great. And then beyond that, it also feels like some of his teammates are not pushing the ball his way because they also feel his lack of confidence. And I think that's what concerned me most about last night was Jordi Alba is not pushing it to Suárez as fast as he can because he knows Suárez is going to put a good attempt on goal. He is a little bit more hesitant. I saw the same thing with Segovia. I saw the same thing with Tadeo Allende, where they can feel Suárez being a little hesitant to fire that ball, to have a little bit less confidence to his game and a little bit less swagger. And it is so weird, but that to me is an even bigger problem where the rest of the team is starting to think, let's just go back to Messi.
Yeah, I agree. And some of it, I think, does have something to do with Mascherano being a rookie coach and not knowing and not wanting to step on Suarez's foot and being friends with him. But there comes a time where you need to, grab the bull by the horns and, this is your team. You're the manager of this team. It's your first managerial job in a league. Don't start having this narrative that you can't rotate or can't properly sit a player down because he's not having performances and it's detrimental to the team and how they want to play. And like you said, there were times that Alba did bypass Suarez and chose to play Messi in a tougher situation. It was a turnover, or times that we didn't cross the ball in because we know Suarez can't get there right now. So it does hurt an aspect of this team's offensive game and what it is already a drought for this team, not scoring any goals.
Let's switch gears for a minute and talk about Vancouver, because when you're caught up in the emotion of the game, it was very disappointing. We ended up losing 2-0, and it feels insurmountable at the end of the game, especially after the final whistle blows, and we know everything we have to do back at home to advance. But rewatching this game, it didn't feel like Vancouver was excellent in this game. They had a few key moments, and they did what they had to do, but I've actually felt that Columbus last weekend, even Toronto to a certain extent, Chicago, especially LAFC, did a much better job of creating chances for themselves. And so when I looked at Vancouver, they were a good team that took advantage of, I thought they had 3 real chances in this game, and they scored 2 of them. Not something every team has done against Inter Miami, so credit to them. LAFC scored 1 of 15 in the last round. So credit to them. But they didn't feel like a dominant team. I didn't come away from this game thinking Inter Miami couldn't have won that game. Inter Miami couldn't have squeaked out a 1-0 result. Inter Miami couldn't have finished that game 0-0. It didn't feel to me like Inter Miami got dominated in any way, if I'm being perfectly honest. And so all of a sudden, you come back to Vancouver took advantage of the big moments. They created a couple big moments for themselves, and they took advantage and put the ball in the back of the net. And those, that's sometimes all soccer really is. And Inter Miami wasn't able to do that, except Inter Miami is the team with all the superstars that are supposed to be the ones who do that. I don't want to be too harsh on the team because this game is really only part of a 2-game series. And just like last series, we left we left Los Angeles thinking, okay, this is going to be tough. They're going to have to change a lot of things. But if they can change things and if they can overcome it, that will be the entirety of that round and the context of that round. So for me, the offensive issues become a huge talking point if they can't fix it. I don't exactly know what the fix is. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But I didn't feel like Vancouver was incredible, I guess is my final point. And I do feel like on another day, Inter Miami could have drawn this game 0-0 or 1-1 or whatever and been in a much better situation, which I do think should give us a little bit more confidence going into next week, thinking this team isn't better than Inter Miami from a talent perspective. They are just clicking in a way that Inter Miami's not right now.
Yeah, I don't think we were played off the pitch or anything like that. Vancouver, you give credit to them. They're a good team. They took their opportunities, and when they had their opportunities to score, they put them away. It's not like we were rolled over and like Columbus did, and they were just having peppering shots at goal and goal and goal. We just sat back and did nothing. I mean, I didn't feel that, Miami got dominated in every aspect or whatever, because it wasn't like that. We had the possession, just didn't turn it into anything. Vancouver's a team that can be beat. If we bring the best game ever on Wednesday, why couldn't it happen, especially at home? But I wasn't leaving, or I didn't stop watching yesterday thinking that this is some juggernaut of a team that, 2-0 is insurmountable at home.
And they're a good team. And I don't want to take it. I don't want to
No, of course.
Didn't feel like they were dominant in a way that Inter Miami couldn't handle. I thought last year when we played at Monterrey, it felt like there was nothing Inter Miami could have done. in the situation they've put themselves in. I don't feel that way against Vancouver, at least not after last night's game. What could Inter Miami have done better? Let's talk about defensively, because I know you had a point about stepping to the ball and making sure they didn't create those crosses. So I'll let you talk on that.
One thing that I do notice a lot, it's just something that catches my eye and just watching soccer in general. A lot of players don't step to the ball in certain areas. Miami hasn't really stepped hard to the ball a lot this year. I thought Redondo could have done that, especially on the Pedro Vite cross. He was kind of just waiting back and just didn't. If he meets him at the edge of the 18-yard box, it's very hard for him to get that ball off his foot. Maybe forces him to play back. Another one was the Brooks Lennon cross for the Latte goal in Atlanta. We really didn't step to the ball, gave him a lot of space. And times I've seen players, Sebastian Berhalter had chances yesterday. Rossi had chances again in Columbus that when the ball's rebounded out, we're just kind of waiting in the 18-yard box, not stepping to it. We got to have the urgency, especially in the semifinal, to step to the ball and not allow them any time to get a cross off. Brian White's very good in the air, very dynamic, and what he put away a goal. And if it's any other person, gets a good clean shot off, it's another goal. Maybe Sebastian Berhalter hits it better. It's not right at Ustadi. So stepping to the ball is a big thing that Inter Miami don't do as well as they should, given that Busquets is out there, Maxi Falcone is out there, Noah Allen's out there. Just that urgency in this game is needed.
Well, part of me thinks that having a goalkeeper that's what they have now actually forces you to play a little bit deeper. And also, I don't think we have a ton of athleticism in the midfield that helps us sort of cover for those guys. So it is hard. Listen, playing defense is tough. I didn't think either of the goals came last night from not stepping up. You saw the first one. It was just a really nice pattern of play by Vancouver. And the second one, Noah Allen is stepping up to Ngando before he makes the pass. And you see like a split second and he defends
There's nothing you can really do there in that situation. Jaden Nelson made a beautiful run across the face of Falcon. So
Mascherano, he also got a lot of criticism last night, and I think this will probably lead us into a conversation about what they can do for game 2. But this is a hard conversation for me to have, because I think you look at the obvious points that I would have contention with. Yannick Bright should have started. Ian Frey should start at right back. It's not what they lost. I thought Federico Redondo played fine. I thought Chelo Wigan played fine. Two of our better players based, in accordance to their standards and expectations. I thought they were fine. And yet we have had the same issue time and time again. And Wookie says in the chat, the issue is much deeper than just being tired. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, he says the tactics just don't work for this team. We're now into a situation where Inter Miami has an offensive problem. Even when they first started not scoring goals, they were still putting up plenty of chances. That Toronto game, they score 1 goal, but they put up 23, 24 shots, something like that. But the last 3 games, it has been just almost nothing.
Yeah.
Virtually nothing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what this team can or should do about it in time for next Wednesday, because, I understand you could say throw a Bondo out there or hope, maybe Baltasar will be ready or whatever. But the truth is, you kind of laid your bed. Now you kind of have to sleep in it. Do you have any ideas for what this team can do? Because it feels too late to test things out, and it feels like it's time to just go be better than the other team.
Yeah. So I have one. I don't know if it's something that'll work, but you mentioned Ian Frey and how good he is getting forward and how good he is on the ball. When Jello gets forward, when that first pass is cut off from the sideline, they're not allowing him, he tends to play back. We see Ian Frey take on that defender through the midfield and give the ball off there, giving another run forward, an overlapping run into the box at times. Jello really doesn't do that. So if we want a right-sided dynamic offensive approach, something that we haven't had in a couple games, I say you start Ian Frey, let him go forward a bit. Yannick Bright drops into that right CDM role, holding that area that Frey vacates, and playing off that and having that sort of approach in a game where you need anything all hands on deck when an offense has been struggling.
Yeah, I think, and I see some people in the chat saying it's not just fatigue. Mistiano says Suárez has regressed, and he's saying it's just fatigue or bad form is too hopeful. This team was good offensively to start the season. The first 9 games of the season, they were averaging basically what they averaged all of last season. I think last season they averaged 2.2 goals per game. Those first 9 games, they were averaging 2.15. So they were doing almost exactly what they were doing last year and playing better defense on top of that. It was all working. Suárez was playing fine. I think the first 7 games of the season, he had 9 goal contributions, 4 goals and 5 assists. Messi, every time he did play, which I know he missed a couple games with a small injury, but he was fantastic. I thought, Allende had that goal scoring streak early in the season. Segovia, I thought, had a really bright start to the season. Then they started to fall off, and it has been precipitous ever since that LAFC game, that first LAFC game, which was really bad. They didn't create any opportunities. It's their first time getting shut out. That was like a wake-up call, I thought, for Inter Miami fans, because this team never really gets shut out, especially not with their best players. Rain, sunshine, snow, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Inter Miami makes it happen. Turf, grass, whatever. And they got shut out. And I thought that was, good on LAFC. They made it happen, but it was, I thought, probably an aberration on what Inter Miami is capable of doing. But then they followed that up with 1 goal against Toronto in a game that I feel they were worth more than that. Fafa Pico had a chance to win at the end. And then the next game they play LAFC, 3 goals in that incredible come from behind win. The last 3 games, though, they create nothing against Chicago. Their best chance was that 91st minute Allende opportunity. That was their best chance of the game. They get 1 miracle goal. Miracle is probably too strong. They had a very nice moment where Chelowigan and Kramaski combined, but that is not a sustainable source of offense.
No.
And then last night they didn't create anything in the last 3 games against Chicago, Columbus, and Vancouver. So I think this system works. I think these players work together. I think Suárez still has it. It's not like it's been 6 months since we've seen anything from him. It's been 6 weeks since he was being put out there as the front runner for the MLS MVP and score and more than a goal contribution every game. Like it's really been recent, but because it's been getting worse and it's been consistent, it feels like the world is ending. And the last 3 games have been terrible. All of last season, they were only shut out 2 times. They've only scored 1 goal in the last 3 games. So that's 5 out of 6 halves with 0 goals. It doesn't feel like it's the system. It feels like the guys are tired. They have played as many minutes as anyone in MLS in terms of all competitions. And there's nothing you can do about it by Wednesday. Don't play them for a single minute on Sunday, and they will still have been played too much to this point. This is something we were talking about against Houston on March 2nd, that they needed to rotate more. And so now I feel like you have put yourself in this situation where the guys are tired, and they're just because they're not hurt doesn't mean they don't have heavy legs. And because they're not hurt, they don't necessarily feel the heavy legs, but they're not quite as quick. And because of that, they're losing confidence, and the offense is falling apart as a result. And the only hope really to me is these guys just show up like they did against LAFC. Am I crazy for thinking that? And I will tell you, I've had a lot of cold medicine over the last 48 hours. So I might be a little loopy right now, but that's how it feels to me.
It's a good argument, honestly. The fact that we haven't rotated and the amount of minutes that these guys have played, I keep saying it, I've said it pretty much every time I've been on here, that legs will affect you. The heavy legs will affect you and affect the way you play, and in turn, in contrast, will affect the style of play that Inter Miami wants to play, and that's a brand of football that wants to go wide, but then we're sucked in narrow. We can't find any space. So and that starts to become a tactical aspect that Mascherano has to play with. So I still think it's a mix of both, an even mix of both of the tactics not being on par with the personnel on the pitch, and then the personnel on the pitch being tired.
And to me, that's really the explanation, because unless you're telling me that Suárez has fallen off a cliff performance-wise over the last 6 weeks, even though his game's not built on athleticism.
It hasn't been built on athleticism since he left Liverpool.
Right. Same thing with Lionel Messi. Right. Last 3 games, no goal contributions. And in last night, like he didn't even create really dangerous opportunities. Those guys haven't just lost their ability to play soccer. Jordi Alba, thought he had a poor performance last night, but I thought he's been fine over the last couple games. I'm sorry. He had been fine this season up until the last couple games. These guys are just tired. Velasco Segovia, I feel like every time he comes from a game off, he looks refreshed and rejuvenated. So to me, that's the answer. The defense has been rotated very well this season. You've had lots of different center backs come in and play. The right back position has been rotated very well. Even Yannick Bright and Redondo have been rotated pretty well. And that front four hasn't been rotated much at all. And that's the part of the team that we're talking about. So I get why saying it's just fatigue feels like a cop-out answer, but I really feel like it's just fatigue. And the problem with that is there's no way to solve that before next Wednesday. So I don't know. Put your answers in the chat, I guess.
They just got to show up. Hope they show up.
Anything else about this game you want to talk about before we get to awards?
No, I think I don't want to dwell on this game anymore. Didn't really feel like I said before, we were dominated off the pitch or anything like that. I think Vancouver was just took their opportunities and scored their goals. We could have had some chances, but I wasn't overwhelmed by they're a good team. No disrespect to them at all. But if the big four, if we show up as a true team with a true identity, a true offensive approach on Wednesday, I think we can beat them.
Yeah, I don't think this is quite over yet. But anyways, let's get to awards because I think we can finish with some positive talk on what comes next. But because I went first last time, you get to go first this time. If you're new to the show, we give out 6 awards on this show: a Heron of the match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. And since, as I said, I went first last time, you get to go first this time, Mark. In this 2-0 defeat where no one stood out, go ahead and tell me who was the Heron of the match for Miami.
This was, what a tough Heron of the match award to give out in this, like you said, a 2-0 defeat where no one stood out. But to me, someone quietly had a good game for us. I felt like that was Sergio Busquets. I felt he was on the ball, able to create final third passes, line breaking passes into Messi, playing as a third center back at times, trying to break, alleviate pressure, calm in defense, had some tackles in the midfield, had some tackles in the final third, one that led to an almost chance, but it wasn't. I thought he had the best game out of Inter Miami, out of the players on the field.
No, I thought Busquets showed up. I agree with you. Not sure I would have given him man of the match, but I think it's fine. I don't think anyone was like a standout obvious choice for this award. I thought the back line played pretty well.
Yeah.
I thought the midfield played well, and I thought the front four played really poorly. And so when you're Busquets, your job is to facilitate. And if you're facilitating into nothing, your end line is not going to look as good. But I agree with you. I thought he played really well. And so I'm happy to give Sergio Busquets the Heron of the match for this award, or for this episode. He is the only one of the big four that I thought brought it last night.
Yeah, and that's what I
maybe
did
that
too.
Should be a bigger conversation. Do you feel good about him? I mean, I know last night was man of the match type.
I feel like he may be overlooked at times because he doesn't score the goals or this and that, but he quietly is one of our most consistent and best players night in, night out, even when we don't get a result. He's doing things that are so integral to this team and helping, start an attack if we have an attack, helping the defense in certain areas, dropping in to alleviate pressure, being the press breaker for any press that, any team may throw at us. So I think he should be recognized for his game yesterday, for having a solid game, I feel like.
Yeah. He was pretty upset with himself, I think, on that second goal. I don't really think it's his responsibility, but he was the closest man to the ball. He probably thought it was his responsibility in the moment. just disappointing. It's he plays the type of role that if everything goes right, you can point to him why it went right. But if everything goes wrong, like it's not necessarily his responsibility or his ability to fix it. So it felt like one of those games. Sergio Busquets, I think this is his first time winning Heron the match this season. So congratulations to him. Let's move on to the much more fitting heron that flew north. And if you haven't seen it before, Florida herons don't fly north for the winter. They don't fly anywhere for the winter. So if you catch them flying north, you're catching them doing the wrong thing. And in that vein, I'm giving the heron of the north, the heron that flew north, to Tadeo Allende, who, listen, had to be one of the front four. And I thought, while Messi didn't have a typical Messi performance, it was fine. Like, he was fine. I thought Telasco Segovia was very underappreciated with what he did last night, and I imagine we will talk about him again soon. So it really came out of Suárez and Tadeo Allende, and Suárez has been what he's been like this for a number of games now, but we haven't really recognized Tadeo Allende in the same vein. He finds ways to get touches in the box, and he hasn't been good enough with those touches. He wasn't impactful in this game. I thought it was, we haven't seen Segovia on the right really, but we've seen a little bit of Tadeo Allende on the left, and he wasn't able to make the most of that. He still felt like he was a little poorly positioned, didn't feel like he knew how to make an impact. And then he had some bad touches. He just had some bad touches in crucial moments where Inter Miami could have created an opportunity. He didn't make the play happen. And it's sad because early in the season, he was the surprise. He was the guy that was having the unbelievable moments, and it felt like he might be the next best player on this team. And over the last couple of games, especially in the wake of Fafa Biko kind of disappearing, Robert Taylor getting traded, you kind of betting everything on Tadeo Allende being a star, and he wasn't able to do that last night. I thought if he had a better game, Inter Miami might have won this game, and he didn't. So I'm giving him the heron that flew north.
I don't think I can go against you on this one. Just look at his last touch of the game. He just kind of tries to take on the defender and gets tackled in the box, and as a culmination of his heavy touches throughout the game, not playing the right ball, just not knowing where to be at times, and it's kind of like you said, he had a good start to the season. He started on fire to say the least, and we thought he was going to be this great player. I still think he's going to be a good player for us this year. I think he needs to find his footing again after that calf injury that did him in Atlanta. So hopefully, this heron that flew north award, is one of the last ones for him, and we start giving him, some deserving awards for his play and the player that he is, and it could all start next Wednesday if he has a great performance. You're muted.
Okay, what is your first award?
My first award, very fitting for how we're feeling. How if you're sick, the vitamin C award.
Yeah, I've been taking.
And I did this before
you. Couple of days. The the vitamin C award. Someone is sick and they need to get healthy, and the way you get healthy is a little bit of vitamin C. And that is exactly what. This is Benjamin Karaski, because he was the guy that came on and showed some life at the end of the game.
No.
Who wins the vitamin C award?
Vitamin C is an essential part of your everyday life. You need to take it. It needs to be there to fight off any infections and heal wounds and stuff like that. Yannick Bright, man. You need a little bit. You need some Yannick Bright in every day. Your daily dose of Yannick Bright, especially in these games where if you're going to go really all out attack and have Busquets very high up the pitch as I expect Wednesday, and finding a goal against Vancouver away wasn't we didn't have that. And again, Yannick Bright helps in the press break when Busquets goes as a third center back. Yannick Bright's ability and improved ability to play the ball forward and turn off a defender and take a defender one-on-one, as we've seen before. He took 2-1 against Columbus, had nowhere to pass to, unfortunately. But you need that in order to break the midfield line, to break the defensive line with certain passes, and to find the players to carry an attack and hopefully get a goal. And by dragging players out of position, Yannick Bright was needed yesterday.
I don't get it. I don't know why he didn't start. I don't think there's anything that Federico Redondo does better than Yannick Bright, other than he's probably about 3% more likely to score a goal, but he's not really a goal threat on a consistent basis. But in a game like last night, no doubt, Yannick Bright needs to start that game. I had an award for him because just unbelievable that he gets a yellow card on his first tackle of the game.
Yeah.
It was, I thought, a really harsh yellow card, and really is going to set them back in game two, because now you have two defensive midfielders. If either one gets another yellow card, if Inter Miami is able to overturn it, they'll be suspended for the final. So just devastating that he gets that yellow card. I don't know what to say. The Ian Frey and Chelo Wiegand situation, and then the Federico Redondo, Yannick Bright situation. It's unbelievable to me. These two players haven't proven themselves as the obvious first choice at their positions. They are so much better. They are so much better. And I think people hate on Redondo too much. And I feel like I push people too far in that direction. And I think people hate on Chelo too much. And I think I push people too far in that direction. Those are good, solid MLS players. They could both play for Vancouver. Mm-hmm. But Yannick Bright and Ian Frey are stars, and Yannick Bright, even more than Frey, has proven that he belongs in every single important minute that this team plays. I don't know what I really don't understand. He was, to me, the best player on the pitch last game, and I find it inexcusable that Javier Mascherano thought it was best to go with Federico Redondo in this game. I really don't understand it.
I'm as don't understand either. I think I saw a comment that said if we didn't learn our lesson last year against Atlanta, that he was needed. I'm always one for Yannick Bright starting. I think he's a quality player. His defensive abilities outshine anything that Redondo could do. Not saying Redondo's a better player by any means, but in terms of comparing those Yannick Bright and Redondo as a number 6 next to Busquets, I'm taking Yannick Bright all day, every day, and certainly in the big games.
What is this? I mean, why are we having this conversation right now? How does he come up with this idea?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I wish, I don't know. I think it's so easy for us to tell that we find it frustrating that, a manager can't really see how a player affects the game, and a player like Yannick Bright is needed.
We have seen people say things like they favor Argentines, they favor Latin American or Spanish-speaking players, and you think to yourself, it can't really be true. Like, they have to, even if they value that, they value winning over that. They want to put the best 11 on the pitch. But then I watch these players every single game, and I think to myself, I don't understand. And I remember people saying, no, you're missing this little aspect. And then 5 games later, it would be clear that that wasn't the case. And then there would be a different little aspect. And it's gotten to the point now, 30 games since Ian Frey and Yannick Bright sort of returned from injury last year / emerged. Mm-hmm. They have proven they are significantly better players. And this is a must-compete game. And the fact that they just aren't there, it blows my mind. So I apologize for hijacking your award and turning it into a Bright / Ian Frey award. But unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think we'll just leave it there.
Cynical Tube with the comment of the chat. The entire squad flew north. I think that's fair. Okay, my first individual award, and I am giving out the Aquifer Award. The Aquifer Award. The Aquifer.
The Aquifer Award. Who would you give this to? Now, my head may not all be there. Certainly coming down with something. The Aquifer Award. Something with water.
Okay. Maybe I'll make this easy for you. Easier.
Give me
I'm giving the Eagle Bearer Award. I'll
Eagle
explain
Bearer.
after you guess. The Eagle Bearer.
The Eagle Bearer Award. When I picture Eagle, I picture United States. Picture Benjamin Kremaski. Coming into the game, doing something to change it. I think I'm gonna stick with Benjamin Kremaski.
Okay, I'm changing my award to the Eagle Bearer Award. Aquilifer is what they used to call the ancient Roman eagle bearers. And the eagle bearer is the person in the army that used to hold the legion, the legionnaire that would hold the eagle bear, the eagle talon that would show they were a true Roman army. And that was a huge, huge responsibility going into battle. I will change it to the eagle bearer, the English translation. This is the person who sets the standard and tone and rhythm of the march. And so I'm giving this award to Lionel Messi because in this game, he was whatever. Like, I didn't think he had any special moments, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to not have special moments. This team is so good that it shouldn't require you to be special every single game for them to have a real shot on target. But next week, you are the big dog, and you got to go prove it. Grab the talent, grab the staff, grab the eagle, and go be the standard bearer for this team. Go prove you are the best player in the region and go deliver Inter Miami into the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. He has to be great next week for this team to advance. He has to be special. And he can do that by himself. Everyone else around him has to try and step up and put him in the best spot. He did this in the last round. Inter Miami went back to South Florida down a goal with a 1-0 loss to LAFC, and he was special in that second leg. And now you have to do it again. It's Lionel Messi, man. Of course he can do it. Of course he can do it. But he now has to.
I think the award makes sense now. He's our guy. He's our captain. He's done it before. He's got to put this team on his shoulder, or this team behind him. Lead them with example. Lead them with a certain style of play that we want to play, and go for it. Grab the talent and lead us. It's no other choice. He's making the big money. He's the big name player, the world's best. It's a Wednesday night at Chase Stadium. Semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Vancouver. It's time to put up.
And this is why he's here. And this is why Inter Miami, this is why they make him the star. This is why they made him the 10. This is why everyone gives him the ball. And even though it's frustrating to some fans, he has that in him because he is the best player still in the world, really. And so it's time to deliver. It's time to prove what you're worth. And if you can, this team can still do everything they want to do, but it's time. Tell me your second and final award of the night.
My second and final award is going to be the Put It in Reverse Award.
The Put It in Reverse Award. I only have one award left, so if you just stole it, I'm going to be so sad. The Put It in Reverse Award goes to one of the backline players because they need to get their behind back to the backline to help play better defense. Or maybe it's one of the midfielders. I'm going to guess Federico Redondo because he needs to be better defensively. I don't know. Who gets the Put It in Reverse Award?
You were right on there with that backline midfield. It's Redondo. And I wouldn't say it's because of he needs to get back so often. But it's more of the style he plays. Yesterday, I saw multiple times where we're trying to break the press and we play the ball into him, and he, instead of turn and with no one around him, take the space given, he just pass it back to where it came from or pass it back to Scotty and try to break the press that way. If he's going to be deployed as a number 6 or number 8 next to Busquets, he's got to have the ability when Busquets is wide and not centrally to receive the ball, turn, and break a press himself with he's got the physical tools. He's physically gifted in that aspect. He's a tall center mid, strong. use your body, shield off a defender, break the press, alleviate pressure, help Inter Miami with something on the break. If you're going to be on that field, you can't always be passing backwards and reversing, and doing things like that are going to hold us in our own third instead of trying to advance the ball when we're trying to get a win or a result.
See, I feel like that's unfair. I think we have to just accept what he is at this point, and really, this is more about Mascherano than it is about Redondo. That's not who Redondo is. He is a solid midfielder at this level.
I'm not saying he's not solid, but just the style that sometimes he plays. Because I saw it last year too at times. I don't think this is new for me.
No, I agree with you that that's who he is.
Yeah.
My point is that's who he is. And so to expect him to be better is unfair to him. And I think that's more a statement to Javier Mascherano. You have to wait until this player is ready to be doing those types of things. And part of that's going to be giving him real clear instructions to do those types of things in games that are of less importance. And that will be part of his development. But you can't expect him in the biggest moments, in the biggest games, to be a player that he's not. And so I've come full circle on Redondo. I think he's fine, but he's just a midfielder on a very good team. He's not a star. He's not a starter. He's not a deal maker. He's not a big player, especially not in big games with the A team. So I have to say about him because he is who he is.
It's your thought and stuff like that. I mean, I do see where you're coming from on that that aspect, and I think that's what he's instructed to do. And he's been put in these games and he's done fair so far. But I just would like to see him have some turn, without the coach telling him anything, instill that confidence in yourself, and take the game in the midfield and play wide and play through it. But
yeah, but that's for lesser games.
Yeah,
for lesser games.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the final award, because I do think there's some other talking points about what Inter Miami needs to do this weekend against Dallas and what they need to do next week. But my final award is the Foundation Award.
Sorry, the Foundation Award. So the base of the foundation, is a strong foundation. I think this is Noah Allen. He's a strong foundation in the back line. Can be relied on. Has been built, strong. Is confident.
I just want to congratulate you. Yes. 4 shows, and you finally went scoreless the entire time. No, the award goes to Telasco Segovia. I think that when Inter Miami went out and got Telasco Segovia, they thought he was going to be a foundational piece to this offense and to this team. Javier Mascherano knew he wanted to put Messi at the 10, but he also knew that he wanted a player like Telasco Segovia to be the guy that takes pressure of ball handling duties off of Lionel Messi, a guy who can be a creative force in the final third that isn't going to put all the responsibility on Messi. And we've seen him on the left side, especially against low blocks, get sort of lost in translation. And we've seen him at various times sort of disappear from the games because he can't find space to get on the ball. And last night, they put him on the right. And he was getting on the ball more than we've seen him get on the ball, I think maybe all season, or at least in the games that he wasn't playing as a 10 in replacement of Messi when Messi was out with an injury. I think that's the spot for Telasco Segovia. I know it didn't look special last night, but he is a really talented player, and I think getting him on the ball consistently is going to free up Messi higher up the pitch. I thought that was going to be very healthy in the buildup. And it's something I've been wanted to see for a long time. And it worked out. The results didn't bear out a success, but I thought the ideas behind it were really good. And if you want to see Telasco Segovia be a foundational piece of your starting 11, and I do think Javier Mascherano wants that, I think the right side of the pitch is a better spot for him than the left side of the pitch. I think he falls apart, or rather disappears too much on the left. And there's so much space on the right that it is easy for him to get on the ball, help in transition, help in the buildup on the right side where he finds himself not just disappearing on the left, but sometimes in the way because he fills those gaps where there's a passing lane to Jordi Alba down the left side. So to me, give me Telasco Segovia on the right moving forward. If you have to switch back for the next 2 games, fine. But as we get into next month and we have a run of MLS games, if you still want this player to be sort of a core piece, a foundational piece to your starting 11, I want to see him on the right more. Get accustomed to it. Figure out how to be more effective. I think that left side of the pitch needs to have a real goal threat. And I don't think that's Telasco Segovia. That part of the pitch on the left side is Messi's sign of vision when he gets onto the ball. He almost always gets onto the ball from the right side, drifting to the left side of the pitch, and he picks his head up, and his vision is central and to the left. And so you want him to have goal-scoring options within his line of sight, and that's what a Tadeo Allende or a Fafa Bico or some other forward player can bring to you on that side of the pitch, especially if they get high up the field. That's not what Telasco Segovia is. And I think Segovia, on the other hand, can be a really nice piece to take up space on the right side, which is clearly frequently unoccupied, and be a player that can help you transition into good quality offense. It didn't look great last night, and I acknowledge that, but I think this is a real strategy moving forward that could be even better for Inter Miami.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, especially with Messi's line of sight and vision going towards the left. If you're able to have Segovia on the right, they can play 1-2 with each other, and Messi can make a run into the box. So Segovia has the quality to play that ball back into him, or Segovia can play that ball wide and switch the play or put it across into the box, or even take on a defender. So I think the amount of space he will have on the right will benefit him, and I'm hoping, turn him back to the player that we saw the first couple games.
Yeah, I don't think we should expect him to be a goal threat really all season. I mean, I know he has a couple goals in him, but it's not like he's going to be like, I think when you're talking about guys that can score 10 plus goals, you're talking about Tadeo Allende, you're talking about Suárez, you're talking about Messi. Those are the guys that have to be your big time goal scorers. Telasco Segovia is going to be a creator and a facilitator. You can get right back down that right side. I think that would be awesome. And so I think there's more to this right side, and I would absolutely hate Javier Mascherano says it didn't work against one of the best teams in the MLS for 45 minutes. I should, on the road, when everyone is sort of out of syncs, let me just scrap it forever. That would upset me so much. So give me that. Next weekend, in whatever MLS game we're playing next weekend, I want to see Telasco Segovia on the right, and I want to get him 3 or 4 game stretch there to see what he's got. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Any other player that you wanted to give an award to?
I wanted to. The everything in between award was Noah Allen. I felt he was everywhere and in between that defensive line. In the midfield, picking up passes, disrupting any type of offensive flow that Vancouver got at times, picking up slack for Jordi Alba, making runs down the left, and just holding that area and the left side strong. So I thought I could have given one to Allen, and I thought he had probably one of the better games of the back line yesterday.
Sorry, I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
Sorry about that. I thought Noah Allen and Maxi Falcone both played well. I know some people are going to give Maxi Falcone trouble for that Brian White goal early on. I think it was just a really nice play by a really good striker. I don't think if he was 3 inches taller, he would have defended that any better.
He had a great diving flick off of Brian White at one point. That Brian White made a run in behind. He kind of flicked back and poked the ball off him. So he's still all in the game.
No, I thought both Noah Allen and Maxi Falcone played really well. I thought Chelo Wiegand had a really nice game, especially by his standards. He had a sort of not quite on the goal line, but a yard and a half off the goal line stop block, whatever you want to call it, early, I think 7th or 8th minute. And that would have dynamically changed the game if he's not there. I thought he really did what he was supposed to do defensively. And so I wanted to give him credit. Suárez, we talked about, just more of the same. And then Oscar Ustari, I did want to stop on this for a second because I don't think he does very well on the second goal. And I didn't think he did very well against LAFC on their goal in the first leg. And I didn't really think he did well on the goal LAFC scored in the second leg either. And so this isn't a call for Drake Callender to start, because that's not what this is. Ustari deserves to be the starter. But I just want to remind people that the difference between Ustari and Drake Callender is that Ustari can look better for 89 minutes, but Drake Callender can be the guy that makes that one stop that saves the game for you. And that's what you're sacrificing, and that's the difference between these goalkeepers. So Ustari, normally fine, but I thought he was very slow to come off his line, and he did not get himself big on that second shot. And I think it was there to be saved. I really do. So I think there will be another conversation about Ustari and Drake Callender a week from now if things don't go our way. But we will talk about that then. And I think we got to everyone. I mean, no Fafa Biko, which I think was pretty surprising. Bright came off the bench, who we talked about. Kramaski came off the bench, who we talked about. Yeah. No other subs. How'd you feel about Mascherano?
Poor. I felt didn't really grasp. He didn't really know anything about the game in terms of the the tactical adjustment in the substitutions. He needed to bring on some Fafa Pico. Seeing as Vancouver brought on fresh legs, we need to counter that in some aspect. And Allende wasn't having the best game, so I would have been okay taking him out, or even putting Obando in for Suárez as well. So it was just, he shook his head a lot, sat down a lot, questioning what was going wrong. But in reality, what went wrong were some of the decisions he didn't make.
By the way, I do want to say something about Obando. He did not belong in this game. You have to push Suárez all the way. Next game, if Inter Miami is desperate for goals in the last 10 minutes, you can throw him on, because he's the kind of guy that can get in the box, has a big body, and in the one outing we did see, they were putting balls into him. They were crossing balls into him. And so clearly he's shown something in practice that makes his teammates feel like if they put the ball into him, he might be able to put a nice header on it.
How would you feel if they took out Suárez and Allende slid as the number 9, and then Pico played that left mid position? How would you feel if Inter Miami did that?
We haven't seen him play as a striker.
So those are thoughts that constantly come into my head. Why hasn't this been tried before? If you're struggling to score offensively, if you're struggling, to find Suárez some confidence, why not try Allende, who's got the physical tools, fresher legs, can get up there for balls, leave Segovia on the right with Messi, and have Pico play off Jordi Alba.
I'm with you, man. I would like to see it at some point. I don't think you can do it now. I think it's too late. And so when we talk about the second leg and what Inter Miami can do, I don't think you can do much. Like, you haven't tested things, and so this is not the right time to just try something new. You're not going to recover having played 2 games a week for 3 months, right? I mean, it was end of January that they started playing 2 games a week if you include the preseason. And by the way, all the big players played all of the preseason games. So
Suárez played 5 of 6.
He started 5 of 6.
5 of 6, yeah.
And then he started every single game of the season so far. So if you're not going to recover in the next week, even if they don't play a single minute on Sunday, it doesn't matter. And so there's almost nothing you can do if you're Javier Mascherano. And that's what my real criticism of Javier Mascherano is he did not tinker enough in the MLS regular season games against Charlotte, against Philadelphia, against Toronto, against Chicago, to see what he had, to see what could work, so that this team was going to have different options in big moments. And I see people talking in the chat, put in Obando, play with 2 strikers, different formations. None of that's going to happen, because these guys aren't drilled in it. They're not prepared in it. And you're only more likely to get blown out if you try something new that you have no experience in. They're going to go with a 4-2-3-1. The only substitute, or the only line change I can see them making, is Yannick Bright starting over Federico Redondo. That's it. And it's going to be the same game plan. And so it's just a matter of, can they bring it in the way they have to? Like I said, I didn't think Vancouver dominated. They just made the 2 games happen when they needed it to happen. I'm sorry, the 2 goals happen when they needed to happen. Can Inter Miami do that the other way? Can they score 3 goals? Can they win by 3 goals? That's what this is about. But there's no change. There's no new tactic, no new wrinkle, no new formation.
You're too far along to make a change now. specifically
so.
for this leg. And you know, I know the comments about Obando and this and that. Let's remember, he's not Campana. Where we had the confidence of slotting Campana in there, and you know, Campana had the ability to score a goal and you know play off Suárez and do this and that. Obando's just a kid. You know, yeah, hasn't gotten any minutes to my surprise. Up and you know in the recent games, which I think he should have. But yeah, I think it's too far along to make any change.
Sean says if it's what Scotty is saying, then Javi should be fired. Here's the thing. They could win next week, and Javier Mascherano could look like a genius, and he could have a team that's undefeated in the league and is in the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Everything is still to play for this team, and anyone that tells you they don't have a chance on Wednesday night is wrong. But if it doesn't go their way, we will talk about bigger picture things when it comes to it. Like I said earlier, everything about this game is tied into the larger context of the entire two-legged semifinal. So we'll have the bigger conversations, at the end of both legs. Let's talk about Dallas. Who do you want to see against Dallas? What do you want to see against Dallas?
I want to see guys get minutes that haven't got minutes. I want to see Ian Frey back in the
Be specific,
picture.
man.
I want to see Ian Frey. I want to see Fafa Pico. I want to see Leo Alfonso. I want to see Alan Obando. I would love to see Drake Callender get a start. Avilas, David Martinez, all those guys.
Here's my 11 that I would like to see. Ustari in goal. I think you got to start Ustari. I wouldn't start Drake in this game. But give me David Martinez and Toto Avilas centrally. Give me Noah Allen at left back. Give me Ian Frey at right back. I would love to see Telasco Segovia as a 6. See what that looks like. Put him next to Redondo. Yeah, I would love to see it. If Baltasar is available, give him a start. If not, let Santi Morales play as the 10. Leo Alfonso, Fafa as the wingers, and then Alan Obando up top. You can bring the big guys off the bench, but they need the game off. They need it off. And hopefully don't use them at all. That lineup I just said can beat Dallas. Sean says, I want to see Tyler Hall get his first start. Yeah.
It's an exciting lineup. I mean, that lineup excites me.
Wouldn't that be a fun pregame show to do, right?
I would love to do I would love that for that lineup to come out. You know, there's young players, fresh legs, pace, ability to take on players with the ball. A new player in a position we haven't seen in Segovia if he gets that 6 next to Redondo. I mean, Ian Frey gets back in the team. Avilas, Martinez, Baltasar, if he's healthy, I would love to see him.
Okay, Mark, I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell everyone where they can find you before we wrap this show up.
You guys can find me on the Kendall Sports Network, Boss 9 show every Wednesday at 7:30, breaking down everything, all things Inter Miami. Come on by, stop by, have a chat. We'd love to have you.
Mark, I want to thank you personally because Soar has been gone for the last couple of weeks. He will be back for the next game recap, and he's been texting me very excited to do that. But you have done an incredible job filling in for him, and I really appreciate that. You've been so kind with your time and your ball knowledge and your ability to come on here and put up with me for an hour and a half after every game. So I really appreciate it. And I know some people in the chat were big fans of you too. I have put all the information you just said in the description. So if you want to follow them on Twitter, check out their podcast, go ahead and do that. The link's in the description. We will be back for the pregame show on Sunday, 1 hour before Inter Miami takes on FC Dallas. And hopefully we get to talk about a very rotated lineup, because if my theory is correct, and the problem with this team is that they are exhausted, doing this, starting them on Sunday is not just going to hurt their chances on Wednesday, but I think it will be bad for their chances to win on Sunday. This Dallas team is not great. And if you go out there and you run Suárez and Messi out there another 90 minutes and they are continually ineffective, not only have you set yourself back for Wednesday, but you haven't given yourself the best opportunity to win on Sunday. I think that's how far we've gotten in this season, where the young guys need a chance to play because the old guys need a rest. Not because they will need a rest, but because they need a rest now. Give them the game off on Sunday. And I'm excited to see that happen, and I think it'll be a very depressing pregame show if we get the same starting 11. Mark, final words.
Thank you for inviting me on, man. I enjoyed my time. speaking with you on Inter Miami, all things Inter, post game, the awards, just a breath of fresh air. With someone else. I loved it. You're very knowledgeable in Inter Miami, and I appreciate your chat for being so in it, and great questions, great comments, everything. So I hope I did a good job.
Yeah, you did wonderful. And again, guys, thank you for being in the chat. I always say this, but it's because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the best part of this. Interacting with you guys makes this so much more fun. And we will see you guys for that pregame show. Have a lovely night. Let's go, Herons. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.